In the pantheon of sports endorsements, some partnerships define eras. Michael Jordan and Nike, a bond so strong it built an empire. But imagine, for a moment, a different history. A history where another generational talent, a revolutionary shooter, nearly became the face of the swoosh. Stephen Curry. The baby-faced assassin. The man who revolutionized basketball with a jump shot. If only Nike had the foresight. While the Golden State Warriors struck gold by taking a chance on Curry, Nike let him slip right through their fingers. And it cost them billions. Today, we're uncovering the incredible story of how Nike, the undisputed giant in sports, fumbled the bag and lost Stephen Curry to Under Armour, a brand that wasn't even in the conversation when it came to basketball sneakers, until Steph showed up. Let's rewind the clock and dive into one of the biggest endorsement blunders in sports history. When Steph Curry entered the NBA in 2009, Nike had him. Before the MVPs, the championships, and the three-point records that reshaped basketball, Nike recognized his potential, signing him to a modest endorsement deal, a modest contract worth about $2.5 million a year. He wore their gear, played in their shoes, and got paid in the process. Not bad for a skinny kid out of Davidson College. It seemed like a natural fit, a path paved for future superstardom. But he wasn't considered a sure thing. Injury-prone ankles, slight frame, and not exactly explosive. But Steph showed flashes. He was a sniper. He was humble. And he was marketable. Nike had him in their system, and all they had to do was keep him. But they didn't. Why? Because they didn't believe in him. Not that much, at least. The year was 2013, and Curry's initial Nike deal was up for renegotiation. His star was rising and was now blossoming into a bona fide NBA star. That season, he would go on to set the record for most three-pointers in a single season and take the Warriors to the playoffs. His star was beginning to shine, but perhaps not yet blindingly bright in the eyes of the corporate behemoth. This was Nike's chance to solidify their relationship, to invest in the future. What transpired next, however, became legendary for all the wrong reasons. During the pitch meeting, Steph and his father, Del Curry, sat across from Nike representatives, eager to hear their vision. But from the outset, red flags started waving. Del Curry himself recounts the cringeworthy beginning, a Nike official repeatedly mispronouncing Steph's name, calling him Stephon. A seemingly minor detail, but a glaring sign of disinterest. Second, they didn't send their A-team. Nike usually brings in the big dogs to lock down their signature athletes. Whether for LeBron James, Kevin Durant, or Kobe Bryant, it was always an all-out production. But for Curry, Nike sent lower-level reps. Third, they refused to offer him a signature shoe. They were only willing to keep him in the Nike Hyperfuse or Hyperdunk lines. No brand identity. No personal touch. Nothing unique. Just another player in their system. But Curry wasn't just another player. He was about to change the game forever. There are other ridiculous screw-ups that Nike had done in their presentation to Curry, and these are totally real and definitely not just made up for comic effect. Nike execs walked into the room talking about how much they hated Curry's mom, Sonia. They forgot to take out the jokey drawings an artist had done of Steph's fragile ankles breaking. Phil Knight walked into the conference room during the middle of the meeting thinking it was a bathroom. Once he saw it was a conference room, he shrugged his shoulders and decided to proceed there anyway. He never attended the meeting. Nike executives just kept asking Steph if he knew James, and they continuously talked about how cool and funny LeBron is. Nike forgot to design a shoe for Steph before the meeting, so one of them took off their penny loafer and pretended it was a revolutionary new design for Steph. When Del Curry showed up with Steph, multiple Nike execs turned to Steph and said, "Dude, you're getting a Del," and then pointed at Del and said, "Get it? Like his name?" They then clarified that they didn't have a computer for Steph, because they're a shoe company. They asked Steph if he wanted water when he arrived. He said yes, but nobody got him any water. And then, the ultimate boo-boo. A repurposed PowerPoint presentation, clearly designed for another star athlete, was displayed. Durant's name accidentally left on a slide, sealed the deal, or rather, unsealed it. Imagine being Curry, sitting in that meeting, and Nike officials didn't even bother to fix someone else's name in the slideshow. For Steph and Dell, it was clear. Nike didn't take him seriously. They didn't see Curry as a top-tier talent, not on the same level as their LeBrons, Bryants, or Durants. He was just another guy in their vast roster. Meanwhile, a scrappy underdog was making moves. Under Armour, then a lesser player in the basketball shoe market, saw something different in Curry. They were hungry, and they were willing to bet big. And they had an unlikely secret weapon. Kent Bazemore. A then undrafted rookie on the Warriors, Bazemore was already an Under Armour athlete, and he tirelessly championed the brand to his teammate, Steph. At the time, Under Armour was just trying to break into basketball. They had made waves in football and training gear, but basketball was still dominated by Nike, Adidas, and Jordan brand. Under Armour had one goal: to find a face for their basketball division. When Nike dropped the ball with Curry, Under Armour picked it up and ran with it. They stepped up to the plate with an offer Nike couldn't, or wouldn't, match. A $4 million annual contract, nearly double Nike's proposed $2.5 million. But it wasn't just about the money. Under Armour offered something more valuable: a partnership. They promised Curry a signature shoe, a central role in their marketing, and the chance to be the face of their brand. Unlike their counterparts at Beaverton, Oregon, they treated Curry like a superstar. They didn't just want him to wear their shoes, they wanted him to build a legacy with them. They offered more money, yes. But more importantly, they offered a signature shoe, marketing control, and even equity in the company. It was personal. It was respectful. It was visionary. The rest, as they say, is history. Curry left Nike and signed with Under Armour in 2013. And that one decision would change everything. As his career exploded, so did Under Armour's basketball presence. In 2015, Curry won the MVP, led the Warriors to a championship, and became the face of the NBA. And he did all of that while wearing Under Armour shoes and apparel. That same year, sales of Under Armour's Curry 1 sneaker went through the roof. By 2016, Under Armour had doubled its share of the basketball shoe market. And Steph was their crown jewel. He became the biggest athlete ever signed by the company. And when Nike saw what they had let go, it was already too late. They had chosen not to believe in him when it mattered most. They had the right to match Under Armour's offer to Curry at the time, but they chose not to. Now, he was selling out sneakers, breaking shooting records, and inspiring a new generation of hoopers. He became the face of the brand, launching his highly successful Curry brand line, which has generated hundreds of millions in sales. Their partnership grew, culminating in a lifetime deal that could reportedly be worth over $1 billion, joining the likes of Jordan and James in the pantheon of athletes who build brands bigger than themselves. Losing Steph wasn't just a minor miss for Nike, it was a financial disaster. According to financial analysts, Under Armour's valuation rose by over $14 billion between 2014 and 2016, largely thanks to the Curry brand's success. Under Armour's CEO at the time, Kevin Plank, even said, "Steph is the most impactful athlete in the history of Under Armour." And get this, at one point in 2016, Under Armour's stock surged so much that it briefly passed Adidas in U.S. market share. All because of one guy. Meanwhile, Nike tried to counter with their usual power moves. More KD, more LeBron, more Kyrie. But none of them had the cultural crossover Curry had at that time. He wasn't just a hooper. He was a father, a family man, a role model, and a revolutionary. And Nike let him walk. Imagine a world where Steph Curry stayed with Nike. Imagine him launching the Curry 1 under the swoosh. Imagine the three-point revolution happening with a Nike logo attached. Nike might have completely monopolized the basketball culture. Again. But they didn't. And now, Under Armour, company that wasn't even in the basketball conversation, has a stake in history thanks to Curry. Nike had Steph Curry and they blew it. The mispronunciation, the generic presentation, the underestimation of a future MVP stand as one of the greatest marketing blunders in sports history. Nike saw a player. Under Armour saw a paradigm shift. Under Armour believed and built an empire with the most unlikely superstar of all. Nike is synonymous with winning, so whenever one of the most recognizable sportswear brands on the planet takes a loss, it goes down in the history books. The botched meeting became a folklore among hoopers and sneakerheads alike. Losing Stephen Curry may have been one of the costliest mistakes in their storied history and will be taught in business schools for years to come. And in the competitive world of sports and business, sometimes it's not just about the biggest brand of all that really matters, but about the brand that truly believes in you and what you can do.